Hello, my name is Carl Smith, and today I will be speaking with you about a common myth among educators related to neuroscience. Right and left brain, right? Wrong. Let's take a look. Myths in the educational community exist because of the gap between the science and the research and the teachers who are trying to interpret the research. Dr. Paul Howard Jones, Associate Professor of Neuroscience and Education, says it this way. We place such an emphasis on science education, and yet the science of learning is very often not included in the training of teachers. Either teachers are not included in the research studies, the scientists who are completing the research studies are not directing their findings for teachers explicitly, or the applications of the science is not included when teachers are trained on these topics. Let's look at a common myth. The myth about right brain and left brain. Some students learn with a right brain focus and others learn with a left brain focus. I'm just a left brain guy. Oh, she's a right brain girl. This is a myth. Let's take a look at the background with the myth. Most likely, the myth originates from the work of Roger Sperry and the California research done in the 1960s on left and right brain, where they would show pictures they found a way to isolate and show pictures to one hemisphere of the brain, and were able to test whether the other hemisphere of the brain had received some of the connected information. The research was groundbreaking, and it led to the comments of like, oh, he's a right brain guy, she's more of a left brain girl. This actually distorts the notion of how the hemispheres work together. I think another part of the myth also comes with the fact that some students prefer more artsy projects, using their hands, being creative, giving problems to solve. Other students are a little bit more of a bookworm. They like math problems. They like to do science experiments. And so these two things play together to create the myth. But there is no supporting evidence. Let's look at this quote from Daniel Willingham, an educational psychologist. There is no supporting evidence. There is evidence that supports that people differ in their interests, that students vary in how much they think of schoolwork as a part of their identity, and that kids differ in what they already know. This leads to mistaking learning style or preference for ability. The truth is that students' differences, whether they prefer art-based projects, math-based projects, or the like, is really comes from a place of their own preferences, what they enjoy doing, possibly their environment, the attitude towards the projects that were cultivated in their early learning, possibly even genetics and abilities, according to Sarah Briggs. But the truth is the two hemispheres of the brain are linked, and they communicate extensively together. What we should do with this information is keep in mind that while students may prefer one method to another, for the maximum benefit, we should use as many methods and activities to help our students learn. Repetition, reviewing it from a different perspective, these efforts will help our students gain the information. We have to engage our students' emotions and engage their senses, and we have to get them excited about what they're learning, or it's not going to hold. So the challenge for teachers is to not isolate, oh, well, this student is probably a left brain, so I should only do these types of activities. Or this student is a right brain thinker, so I should only do these types of activities. Instead, we should understand that students are going to learn through a variety of different ways and work actively to engage our students in whatever way possible. Let's move beyond the myth. Let's take the science and let's apply it in a more meaningful way to our classrooms. First, we need to move towards distinction. The current definition of neuroscience is too broad. We are wordsmithing and marketing using this prefix neuro and things like brain-based learning, and we are coming up with cute little phrases to explain activities that we're using in our classrooms, and this is causing confusion. Teachers are reporting a blurring of the disciplines, namely neuroscience, cognitive psychology, and educational psychology. Teachers do not understand where one field stops and another begins, and we're not helping them by creating seminars and workshops that use very fuzzy language and make explicit applications to the classroom. So we need to move towards distinction when we speak about the science. Next, we need to encourage discernment with our teachers. Current discussions about these topics are being mistaken as prescriptions for how to teach in the classroom, for what to do. And the studies are often very careful to abstain from explicit recommendations for the classroom. So instead, teachers need to use discernment and wisdom in applying what the information means for their classes, seeking counsel, and maybe just absorbing the information to help them understand their students, not making explicit changes to the classroom outright. Second to this is our third topic, which is development. We need to let the current research help describe what's happening in the developing brains of our students. Thinking of students' brains as unfinished or understanding the behavior as not being entirely voluntary will help us cope with our difficult students. So instead of saying, well, I understand this research study, so now I need to do these sorts of activities. Instead, we need to understand the developing brains of our students. And we also need to have a call for action for research studies around explicit teaching methods. We need to develop those sorts of research studies too. So research study A said the brain works this way. So my hypothesis is that these sort of activities will yield a bigger result. Then we can actually make recommendations for our classes. While I list my references on the screen, I just want to take a moment to thank you for your attention, and I look forward to your thoughts.